Because if we need to go into even the practice of Kriya, Kriya is not different from the teachings of the Yoga Sutras, except for the particular techniques which has to be learned from a teacher. I mean, beyond that, it's very much part of the yoga darshana. Which is why in the sadhana pada, which is the chapter on practice, Patanjali defines his yoga as kriya. Yesterday we discussed that. Tapas, swadhyaya, Ishvara pranidhanat or Ishvara pranidhanani, kriya yoga. This is kriya yoga. So we should have a good background before we move forward. So I am continuing from yesterday's discussion. We are still in Samadhi Pada, the first chapter, mind you. Here are the obstacles and distractions which prevent the mind from being free of distractions, of fluctuations. Of course, techniques like chanting of Om, which we discussed yesterday, are very helpful. And yet, it's important to find out what are the obstacles that come a little more, what do you call that, clear manner too. Here are the distractions to Samadhi. Sutra is number 30, Sutra number 30. Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Alasya, Avirati, Bhranti, Darshana Alabdha Bhumika, Anavastiratvam, Chitta Vikshepa, Te Antarya. Which means these obstacles and distractions are number one, Vyadhi, sickness. Which is why in the earlier part of the Yoga Sutras, there is a lot of stress laid on yama, niyama, asana and so on, so that sickness does. So from the yogic point of view, prevention is better than cure. So if you continue to lead a disciplined life and practice enough physical as well as mind movements, then it's likely that one would stay healthy. And if one is not healthy, it is not possible even to sit up and meditate. All the time, there's pain here, there is pain here, you know how it is, you're sick. So the idea is, one of the obstacles and distractions to stopping of the fluctuations of the mind is sickness of all kinds. Physical sickness, of course, but also mental sickness. Mind sickness is also part of sickness. According to the definition of good health, even in the World Health Organization, WHO, health does not define only physical health, but also mind health. It's very important. So, sickness, dullness. When you say dullness, it means the incapacity of the mind to penetrate and look at things sharply. So dullness comes under the guna, tamo guna. According to the Sankhya, from which the Yoga Darshana has derived all its terms, why in Vedanta also uses Sankhya terms like gunas, tattvas and so on. The main three gunas, triguna, in all human beings are sattva, rajas and tamo. And out of these three, all human beings have these gunas in some proportion. Some have more predominating sattva, some have more predominating rajoguna, and some tamoguna. Usually, if the body and mind are to be healthy, the rajoguna and the sattvaguna are almost equal, less tamoguna. Tamoguna minimum is required, because without a little bit of tamoguna you cannot even sleep, because sleep is part of tamoguna. Not as if everybody is free of that. But very little were required, while rajoguna is activity, basically. This can be controlled to some extent and not made complete 100% 24-hour activity. There you can control. Sattvaguna is mostly based on calmness, quietness, different from sleep. Calm. Why I am saying this, very often people mistake tamoguna for sattvaguna. That's why I am saying. So, sattva is goodness, calmness, tranquility, quietness, and the settling down of the mind, saying, yeah, I kind of know what we need, that kind of thing. Very often, tamoguna can be easily misinterpreted as sattvaguna. There are people who sleep whole day and say that I am in sattvaguna. Everything is like... It's not sattvaguna. Now to come out of that and go to sattvaguna, rajoguna is required. Activity is required. The better the activity for goodness of others, the more sattvic it becomes. But it is rajoguna. If the activity is only for yourself, then it moves little bit towards tamoguna. When the activity is also, of course, you also have to do some activity to survive. But if it moves towards also for others, goodness for others, like people usually say, I also say, many people, well, I do my duty. Why? I look after my kids. So my dharma is to look after my kids, so I am doing a sattvic activity, rajo-sattvic activity. Fine. But then, all the creatures on earth, from birds to monkeys to animals, they all look after their kids. It's not a big deal. Mind you, the hen looks after his chicken so well, better than us. It's not a big deal, because it is built into the system. I'm not saying you should not. It's not such a great saintly thing to look after your kids. If you don't look after your kids, who will look after your kids? It's built into the system. The blood bonds are there. So you look after. So that you can say is rajoguna with a little tinge of sattvaguna. But if you look after your neighbor's child when it is suffering, or somebody else's kid when it's suffering, or somebody else's father and mother who are sick, then that activity, rajoguna, becomes more towards sattvaguna. You get what I'm trying to say? Gradually. So the yogi's idea is not to remain in tamoguna, inactive. We are sitting in Vivekananda Hall, right? When Swami Vivekananda started the Ramakrishna mission, he said, look, you fellows are not going to meditate all the time. All of you, just because you change your robe, have not become sattvaguna. So, how do you do? Work, seva. Now that seva, when applied to others, now what does a sannyasi have? No family. Why would he work for? For somebody else. That work, he said, is seva to Daridra Narayana. So one who is in misery is also Narayana, Daridra Narayana. So when you do seva, you look after, try to help that person, then that rajoguna takes you slowly towards sattvaguna. Then you can meditate. He said, first, work. Because he knew that some people are so lazy that they take sannyas. I'm not sorry, I'm not. Sorry. I forgot. I'm so sorry. It's not like that. I'm saying general, basically. So then they say we have nothing to do and all. But I get good food, everything, assured. You don't have to worry about all that. You have a place to live, you have everything. Now it is possible, I'm not saying all, possible that some may go towards tamoguna. So which is why Swamiji said work. So if anybody wants to join the Ramakrishna mission full time and thinks that you will be allowed to meditate all the time, please find some other place. No, I have been for 3 years with them. Work, work, work. Serious work. And then, not for yourself of course, seva. And then the mind actually becomes purified, and then when you sit down to meditate, the sattva-guna takes over. Otherwise, tamoguna will take over. You see what I am trying to say? While everybody has all gunas in some proportions or the other. Nobody is ruled out of this, everybody has. But what predominates is the most important. So do not mistake. Morning I wake up, have a good breakfast, then I look around, sleep the whole day. I think I am in Sattva Guna, Samadhi. You are in Tamo Guna, sir. You see how to distinguish between the two. Okay. And usually those who mistake Sattva Guna for Tamo Guna are people who are not kind to anybody else. They won't do anything for anybody. Of course, they won't do anything for themselves also. But yeah. So make a distinction between the two. So sickness, all this is, and dullness. I was talking about dullness. With a mind that is always in the sleep mode, or tamoguna, the brain certainly cannot be sharp. It cannot think. And without thinking, one cannot move forward on this path till you understand that there is something beyond thinking. Now, to understand that there is something beyond ordinary intellect does not come through laziness. It comes through proper analysis. And for that you need to be awake and you cannot be dull. Now, also, the food you eat helps there. If you eat food that makes you always lie down and snore, then you are doing the wrong food. Now, wait a minute. I know people who say we are very sattvic, we won't eat garlic, onion. All right, that's fine, especially if you're having closed door meetings with people, it's good not to eat onion and garlic. Yeah, they'll run away. But we don't do all that. So what? What does that mean? We lead a very sattvic life. And we have only one meal a day. Great, you will wonder, wonderful. Then you say, can I come and see your one meal a day, I can help you and all. Then you will realize that one meal is equivalent to our 4 meals. All kinds of things. You call that a sattvic diet. A sattvic diet is very balanced, it's neither too much nor too little. It cannot be like that. Maybe you don't eat garlic, that's okay. And they say it is good for cholesterol, but it doesn't matter. If you don't want, don't eat. Don't think it won't be tasty, huh? I have eaten very tasty food with no garlic and no onion. It's not that. It's simply that because of that, if you eat so much, and a quarter kg of halwa because it has no garlic and onion, it's not a sattvic meal. These are practical things which we have to figure out. Okay. So, sickness, dullness, then doubt. You know the famous doubting Thomas. People who doubt everything. I'm not saying you should not doubt. Good to have doubt, good to understand. In fact, many inquiries and investigations start with doubt. If scientists had not doubted that these laws are wrong, they would not have investigated and found out the real laws. I understand. But to doubt everything, like somebody is smiling at me, probably he wants to take my bank account. Somebody is offering me some nice food to eat, there must be some nefarious thing behind. A doubting mind is always doubting. Even you go on a train, somebody is sitting near you and he is looking this side and he says, he's looking at my suitcase, maybe it will go up. Now this is a torturous mind. It's always doubting. Even what has been given in the Shruti and all the Shastras, I'm not saying you should follow it fully, but you should not start with the idea that it may be wrong. It may be they are trying to fool us. Then how do you start the inquiry? So too much of this doubting is a bad idea. That also causes, for instance, we all human beings live through thought, right? So we build our, what you call, a framework of logic in our lives. For each person it may be different, but we build it and say we are sticking to this. Okay, fine. Now anything that goes against that, I doubt. Can I say, okay, can I also look into this and figure out? No, I will not do. Why? Because I doubt that it's already messed up. In this kind of doubt, doubtful mind, always doubting, cannot expect to be free of fluctuations. If you have a doubt about something, okay, great. When you're sitting down to delve deep into your mind, keep it away. Say, let me come back and look at this doubt. Let's not let it interfere with my sitting down and settling down. Keep it. When you take off your shoes, when you come in, leave your doubts and ego and everything there. So when you go back, you can wear them and go tuck and say, restored. You get what I'm trying to say? It's not against doubt, it's against constantly doubting mind. Everything is doubt. Even if that is the case, you cannot even lead a happy married life if you are married. You're always doubting. Okay. So, dullness, there may be much more, I'm trying to cut it short. So, sickness, dullness, doubt, carelessness. Carelessness. There are certain decisions which have to be made at the right time. If I am careless about that and leave it to chance, I have to think about it later, avoid. That time, it will be too late to take a decision. So don't be careless. Care for everything that occurs in your life, without which you may not even be able to take a proper decision and you will regret for it afterwards. Now don't be so careless. Also, carelessness also means kind of being, you go to a hotel or to a restaurant, there's a guy serving food. Of course it is his job to serve food, otherwise he'll be fired, agreed. But is there a way of behaving with this guy which can be done with a little care? A yogi is not one who simply meditates. In daily life it has to be practiced. Can I at least say thank you to this guy? He's doing his job. Even if I don't say thank you, he's all right. No problem there. I have to say thank you because there is a relationship established. Because I take care. I'm not careless about this. So, a child in my own home may question certain things that I'm doing. I cannot just brush it off, careless, it doesn't matter. Because the child may have something to say. It may make sense in some way. Also, basically, with your own child sees you 24 hours a day, mostly. Nowadays, of course, they're all sent off to schools, packed off. But the child sees you very close. You can pretend to be something with somebody else. You cannot pretend to be somebody else with the child, because the child is intimately watching you. So, the child may criticize you. Don't brush it off carelessly. Take care. Look at that also. Now you will think this yogic life is so difficult, better not be yogi. Believe me, it's quite enjoyable. Okay. Laziness, I don't have to say anything about laziness. There are people who are so lazy, they cannot sit for 2 minutes and meditate. Oh, why meditate? They can't do anything. They're so lazy. This has to be avoided. Even in daily life, forget about Yoga Sutras. Then, addictions. Now, addictions, while some are thank you. I think I am addicted to the book. Okay. So, addictions can be of many kinds. Addictions need not necessarily mean only chemical addictions. Like my Sunday is not made without a beer. I mean, this is an addiction. But it's a simple addiction. There's a much more serious addiction, which is I am so addicted to my daily habits that I do not want to change it. Then it becomes an addiction. If there is a possibility of changing it, then it cannot be an addiction. So examine oneself regularly to see if I am addicted to something which in the long run may be bad for me or bad for others. Both. And addiction is something which happens through repeated action. Now there are some good addictions. Substitute good addictions for the bad. What are the good addictions? To get up in the morning and look at the sun and chant the mantra, enjoy, hear the birds singing. The other day somebody came and stayed with us and complained that this is a horrible place because in the morning there are too many birds chirping. What nonsense, I can't sleep. What do? So, listening to birds, watching the sunrise, these are all good addictions. Very good addictions. Because you cannot get rid of bad addictions without getting attached to good addictions. All of a sudden you can't be free of everything. So a good addiction, like chanting, singing, music, good food, that's also okay. Except things which alter your brain structure and thoughts. This you should avoid to the best of your capacity. So, addictions, false views. False views. What are false views? False views may differ from person to person. Because what you may think is a false view may not be so to another person. So, when you dismiss something as a false view, just examine it carefully before dismissing it. This is the mention that is here. Then, non-attainment of spiritual stage and subsequent instability. This can also be an obstacle to the tranquility of the mind which does not undergo fluctuations. Now, but that is the last stage, a spiritual state. at least if in your meditation and in your daily life, you get 10 or 15 minutes of quietness at some point, through the chanting of mantra, or through worship, or through pranayam, or through looking at nature wide-eyed in wonder. If you have 10-15 minutes of that at least in daily life, I would say it is a spiritual state. Even though it may be a stepping stone to the higher spiritual state, is a beginning of spiritual, because you're beginning to enjoy something which is not physical. You get what I'm... So, this is why spiritual stage is mentioned here, otherwise it should be at the end. And instability happens because of the absence of this spiritual state. Suppose my whole day I spent in a profession where the mind is unstable, in the sense that it always is fighting, competing, that way. If I don't get even 10-15 minutes of quietness in my life, then this becomes a habit in the brain, so that even when I sit down and want to go deep within myself, it comes and becomes an obstacle to me. So therefore, indulge in such good acts which will keep you engaged, where your mind is calmer than the ordinary way when you're working. This is easily possible. Set apart, and don't think that I will finish reading entirely the Yoga Sutras, understanding the philosophy of Yoga Darshana, and Purva Mimamsa, and Sankhya, and Vedanta, and then meditate. This will never happen. Before that, the fire will start burning, where you go in the end. Right? So, whatever little bit you study, that is part of your knowledge which you are gathering, to improve yourself. But start the practice of calming your mind at least for a few minutes every day. Could be worship. If you are fully involved in worshipping a deity, that's also great. Then also the mind is now in something other than what you are always involved in. And believe me, if you do that, you will also see in the outside world, even your perceptions become sharper and nicer, and your behavior becomes different. Everything changes. I don't know how many of you, did you notice how beautiful this top is? It's an ancient structure. People think, oh, somebody is in the Atmic state, so therefore they don't see the world as an illusion. Yes. But your perceptions are heightened. You see this beautiful yellow there? I'm sure I and a person who smokes cannabis can see brighter yellow than others. I'm not saying you should do that. Perceptions are heightened. The old structure, you see this? You don't see it anywhere else. Of course, some of the colored glass has gone. But so the whole perspective changes in life. Now, I'm not appreciating this because I want to acquire it, mind you. The problem in life is not appreciating, seeing something and enjoying. The problem starts when I want to acquire it. This is the problem. Not, look, the beautiful flowers in the garden, no problem. You can see, you can smell. I'm talking about roses and flowers, okay? Not any. And the problem starts when I want to pluck it and put it in my pocket. That's where the problem starts. I don't want anybody else to enjoy it. They say that the great playwright George Bernard Shaw was very fond of flowers. So a journalist went to interview him. She went into his house and there was no flower vase anywhere in the house. So she said, I thought you love flowers. I don't see any inside your house in a flower. He opened the window. He said, look, there's a lot of flowers in the garden. Yes, I love flowers. They are there. I also love children, small children. I don't cut their heads and stick them up in vases inside the house. I hope you understand. So, okay, so we'll move to Sutra 31. So by all means love, but do not possess. Half the problem is solved. Then, a dissatisfied, oh, this is a wonderful description. Daur manasyangam. Dukkha, of course, is sorrow. A dissatisfied, despairing body, unsteady inhalation and exhalation are the root reasons for distractions. Or, when there is distraction, this is what happens. The other way around. If the breath is unsteady, if one is always dissatisfied and despairing, even about the body and the mind and the world, then what happens is, automatically, if you notice, your inhalation and exhalation becomes very unsteady and unequal. So, if a mind which is despairing and which is always in sorrow and, dukkha, if its breath can be steadied and brought into a rhythm, then the cause will disappear. The other way around. If in this state my breath is agitated, how do I know? Okay. When I am very agitated, despairing, full of sorrow, watch your breath. Close your eyes and see. You will find automatically that the rhythm of the pattern of your breathing is very erratic. How? When you are angry, you don't even have to watch your breath. I must kill him. Now, when you are in a quiet spot, listening to some lovely music, let's say, beautiful moon showing from the window, just close your eyes and watch your breath. Very slow. They are saying, if moods can fluctuate the rhythm of your breath, you can, the other way around, calm your breath and calm your mind. So, a dissatisfied, despairing body, and which is usually accompanied by unsteady inhalation and exhalation, when this can be adjusted, the distractions can be got rid of. Now, this is where Kriya, Pranayam, everything comes. Otherwise, people, what is the connection between finding a calm state of mind and spiritual world with breathing? Why are we breathing in and out? What is the connection? This is the connection. It's not a mechanical thing. For the purpose of counteracting this despair and fluctuations of the brain, the practice of single-pointed attention should be developed. Now, then comes Sutra 33, which is trying to prescribe some medicine, some treatment for a distracted mind. A mind which is always in sorrow, always distracted. One, of course, is breathing. Controlling your breath, which is erratic, and making it quiet. This is kind of physical, physio-psychological, let's say. The second is our daily life. Daily life. How to prevent the distractions of your mind and fluctuations of the brain in daily life, even when you are not doing your meditation. Here it is. Maitri, Karuna, and so on. Which means Purification of the mind can be brought about by cultivation of friendliness, compassion, happiness, equanimity, not only in conditions of pleasure, but even in conditions of dissatisfaction. Recognition and non-recognition of merit. Now here needs a little bit of explanation. A mind which develops friendliness. We know that all people may not be good-minded. They may not always be thinking of your good. They may be thinking of not your good also. But the idea of developing friendliness is to be friendly to both friend and enemy. It's difficult, I know. Actually, in this world, our enemies do good to us than our friends. Because our friends are those who always pamper us and praise us and flatter us. The enemies always say, you are an idiot, what are you doing? That makes you look at the mirror and see what you really are. So be very thankful to them and be very friendly to them. If be friendly with everybody, doesn't matter if he is your enemy. This you should learn from politicians. You see all those things we see on India, we see on Sunset TV, everybody is fighting with each other. Just go to the parliament canteen, everybody is enjoying their coffee together. Yeah, no problem. It is for us, for the public to see. Inside all are very friendly, very nice. अरे थोड़ा सा चाय पी लीजिए बैठिए. Maybe that's why they are in power, I don't know. But anyway, we are not aiming for that power, but it's good to be happy and friendly with people. Don't abruptly cut off people. Except when they're interfering you when you're meditating. Then no harm. You say, please shut up, I'm meditating. Generally, develop friendliness because friendliness will negate enmity. It's a practical thing, not because you're really compassionate. Also, gradually develop some compassion. Somebody may be doing something which you think is wrong, but there may be some reason behind it. So just accept it. Okay, fine. I still have some good feeling for this person. I'll help. I always lead my life like that. What to do? You can't expect saints everywhere, right? I'm myself not a saint. Anyway, so you can't get upset with people who are. You say, okay, fine, nice. Even if you are not able to move and you are too busy, you have to meet people and talk to them. That's my job, which I have promised to do. So I cannot withdraw from that. So I'm friendly with everybody. We'll go to New Zealand also sometime. So, purification of the mind can be brought about by cultivation of friendliness, compassion, happiness, and equanimity. Try to also be happy in little things in your life. Don't say I will be happy only when I get moksha. Little things in life, we are lucky that we get food to eat, we have a shelter over our heads, we have clothes to wear, we have at least one person who cares for us, at least. That itself is a big blessing. So be happy and be, thankful for it. Then you see your life is very nice. Don't think of the negative things. Now, expanding upon what was expressed, that the tranquility of the mind is reflected in the tranquility of the breath, in Sutra 34, one of the methods to restore balance and tranquility is by expulsion and retention of breath. So the whole science of pranayam, which occurs yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, the third in the angas, is discussed by saying one of the methods to restore balance and one of the methods. If somebody is a great devotee and his mind is restored to balance and tranquility just by worshipping or just by singing hymns and praises, or that's fine. Who is saying there is also one of the methods, which is expulsion and retention of the breath. So one way was expressed. One general way is develop friendliness. Second way is try to calm your breath, tranquil breath, through holding, expelling and inhaling of breath, which is pranayam in its own way. Sutra 36 says, or by meditation on pure light. By meditation on pure light means the inner light. You don't see any other pure light. The purest light other than inner light that you see in this world is the sun, and in the night the moon. So meditating on these two heavenly bodies, pure light, right? These lights are not controlled by shell companies. These are not controlled by solar energy companies. These are natural lights given to us out of kindness. The sun shines on everybody. Sun does not discriminate, right? So does the moon. So this cool light and the hot light of the sun, meditate on them. This is also one way of bringing about tranquility and sorrowless state. Now such a mind which does all this, or one of these, and has attained a quietness of mind, is free from attachment. Because now, what is its link to attachment? What is the link of the fluctuating mind to attachment? In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a beautiful description of how this works, this mechanism. Dhyayado vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pachayate sangat samjayate kamaha kamat krodo vijayate. Krodhat, from krodha comes sammoha. From sammoha comes smriti bhramsha. From smriti bhramsha comes complete destruction of one's life. Let me explain. We live in this world surrounded by objects of the senses. Okay, we need even food to drink, everything is part of this life. But since we live surrounded by the objects of the senses, it's like going into a mall. Even if you don't want to buy anything, there are people who spend hours looking around. Why? Because the attachment of objects to the senses is there, right? In different ways, and beautifully put. So, as you get attached to these objects of the senses, Suppose I get attached to one object. Now, I may not be the only one attached to that. There may be others also who are attached to that. Now, they want that. I also want that. If they take away what I want, then I am angry with them. So how attachment to sense objects brings about anger. If someone is taking away what I am attached to, then I am very angry. I mean, some of the murders that we hear of in the newspapers and media and so on is because of attachment. Somebody loves somebody and somebody else is also there involved. And nowadays it's many are involved. And then this person gets angry and murders the other person. And even murders the object of his attachment. Just imagine. So the anger comes through the basic, where is the root, the attachment? Anger. What happens in anger? Pratibhramsha, which means your memory is affected by anger. How? I may be an ordinary gardener here. No, somebody may be, I may be an ordinary gardener here. And there is the boss who runs this place. Now when I am angry, if I am angry, I will forget. My memory that he is my boss will disappear. And in anger I might go and kick him. Why? Because my memory has been lost. Short-term memory, long-term memory, everything. So I behave in strange ways which if really my memory was functioning, I wouldn't have. Right? So, if attachment to the sense objects has produced anger, and through anger I am acting. Now, every day in life we go through this, right? In some way or the other. So, aren't we crazy all the time? No. I was just stating an isolated example. But this is our daily life. So deep down, every day, every minute, we are losing our memory, we are angry in some way or the other. It may not be expressed. It's not civilized to express anger, so. Now if this continues, if madness continues for a long time, then my whole life is destroyed. I cannot do any sane action after that, because my memories do not work. Where is the root? Surrounded by sense objects. Now, it's a difficult world. The whole idea of media is to do this, to surround with sense objects. I'm not talking about news media, advertising. No. In fact, even in news media, I have worked in newspapers as a reporter. As a young reporter, I went one day to my editor and said, "Sir, 3 days I haven't got any story." He said, "If you don't have a story, nobody has a story, you make a story." It all works like that. When we started our Padayatra, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, the person who was supposed to spread the word went to meet a very senior politician, I won't say names, and said, "Sir, please help us so that everybody comes to know that this work is happening, and it's not political. There's no party involved." He said, "I have 2 suggestions for you. If you want media attention," very senior political guy. One is, get your own people to throw some stones, as Shriyam goes. That's all you need to do. All media will come. Or, give me 3 crores and I will get all the media to you. And then he also had, I know Shriyam won't agree to both, but I'm just telling you, being honest with you. This is the reality. There you go. So, such a mind with a minimum fluctuation, this is Sutra 41, is like a clear, transparent jewel and assumes the colors of the objects near it, and thus unites the one who grasps what he grasps and the act of grasping, which means a mind in which the brain has stopped all fluctuations becomes a transparent mirror-like being who reflects all the colors that he sees or she sees without getting involved in the colors, but reflecting all colors that one sees and remaining compassionate, happy and free. It does not reject any color from outside, because when there is a clear mirror, all colors are reflected. But he knows that it is a reflection. Enjoy it as long as it lasts. Take the mirror out, it is gone. This is the state of a person whose brain's fluctuations have ceased. And the entire idea of the Yoga Darshana, especially the Yoga Sutras, is how to bring about the stopping of the fluctuations of the brain. Chitta vritti nirodha. This is the definition given. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha by Patanjali. So, such a mind, this is Sutra 41, with minimum fluctuations. There are fluctuations, mind you. Patanjali is very clear on this. He doesn't mince words. There are minimum fluctuations. Minimum. Like if you for 1-2 months don't get a masala dosha, there is a little fluctuation. It's harmless fluctuation. Right? So such a mind with minimum fluctuations is like a clear, transparent jewel and assumes the colors of the objects near it. Now there is one danger involved in this. A person who associates with him, with her or whoever here, begins to think that this person likes me or this person, agrees with me or does. But it's simply that the mirror is so clean that it is reflecting the colors. There is nothing personal. Such a mind with minimum fluctuations is like a clear, transparent jewel and assumes the colors of the objects near it and thus unites the one who grasps, the thing grasped, and the act of grasping. All these things become one. So there is no deliberate attempt to grasp. Because the mirror is clear, everything is reflected. But it's a reflection. Okay. Now, this state, when attained, when the brain becomes completely free of all fluctuations, when the mind then takes over what is called the mind, it's nothing to do with the brain. That the brain cannot contact ever. It can contact the brain if required. This is something we miss usually. The brain, with all its fluctuations and so on, cannot contact that mind. But the mind, or you may call it pure consciousness if you like, can contact it where required and when required. There is a state when all fluctuations have ceased, when the brain is completely silent, then there is only that mind. This is Purusha. This is Yoga Sutras. According to Sankhya and Yoga Darshana, then there is only the Purusha, not the brain working. So, which means, according to Yoga Darshana, everything in this world that we go is part of the brain. Why? Part of thought. And the pure consciousness is beyond thought, beyond brain, beyond all fluctuations. When all fluctuations have ceased, it will touch. At least you know that it is touching. Otherwise, it will not. Which is why the Upanishads sometimes declare that Nayamatma pravachanena labhya. This Atman cannot be attained through any pravachanas. I mean, it's a sweeping statement, of course. Let me put it this way. The breeze of consciousness is always there outside. Air of conscious, pure air is always there, everywhere. But here we are sitting with our windows closed. So it's not coming inside, right? All the sadhana that we do, according to Yoga Sutras, is how to open these windows, nothing else. You cannot ask the breeze to come, or you cannot expect. It is always there. It's not as if it's not there, but our windows are closed. So all the actions called chitta vritti nirodhas, trying to stop the fluctuations of the mind, sadhana is basically cleaning the glasses, opening the window, cleaning the floor and leaving it there. Then surrender. There is no way you can say the breeze has to blow now. It will blow. But make sure that you keep your windows open. Don't close them off. All sadhana is only that much, no other. So that's why some great saints believe in grace. But then you should open up to allow the grace to flow in. And this is sadhana. Then we have 2 more pages, which is basically a commentary on the sutras that we did now, which I have taken from even more ancient sources like the Upanishad. We'll meet in 15 minutes. Yeah.